When you have a device like the Line 6 Helix, which contains so many amazing amp models, it is easy to sometimes just focus on the same 2 or 3 amps that we always use. A lot of folks will gravitate toward the Marshall style amps or the Fender style amps or any other extremely popular amplifier. But what can happen sometimes is we tend to maybe gloss over some of the other incredible amps that we have in there. And today, in this episode of Helix Amps Revisited, we're actually going to take a look at what I kind of maybe feel is one amp that doesn't get enough recognition, or the recognition that it deserves at least. And that amplifier is the Divided Duo amp. Now, I'm sure a lot of folks do use it, but it isn't one I hear talked about a lot, and I think that's a real shame. The Divided Duo is a model of the incredible Divided by 13 JRT 915 amplifier, which is quite unique in that it's almost like 2 amps in one. There's 2 volume controls on it, and we're going to look at all these features once we head over to HX Edit and look at the preset. So our guitar input on the amp is going to feed 2 different front end preamp sections, I guess we can call it, each with its own volume control and each voiced differently so we can blend the characteristics of both. Very, very cool. There is a 6-way tone knob also on the amp, which I believe on the real amp is a selectable 6-way switch. On the Helix version, it's just blendable. We can kind of go right through all the steps on it. And I believe at the extreme, it's engaging a bright cap, so it's going to get a lot brighter. So that's the tone control. And then we also have a cut control. And there's also the ability to switch between 2 different power sections, either a 9-watt 6v6 mode or a 15-watt EL84 mode. Now, I'm not really sure which mode the Helix was modeled after, but anyways, we get some killer tones out of it. So we're going to take a look at all that. Now, the free preset that I'm going to make today is going to be available at the link below at my website, but this is very similar and a very stripped down single snapshot of my full Divided Duo Ultimate preset that's available on the Line 6 Marketplace. I'll also have the link below to that. And this truly is a real favorite preset of mine to go to when working on productions and sessions. And it just sounds amazing. Now, the full-blown multi-snapshot preset's also going to have a full array of effects. So it's going to be the type of preset you could use for a wide array of different styles and going all the way from clean all the way up to quite driven. So very cool stuff. So later in the video, I'm going to play you the full-blown video/audio demo of how all the various snapshots from the Line 6 Marketplace Divided Duo Ultimate preset sound when used together in a full mix with a rhythm section. But for now, let's go take a look and see exactly what I did with this single snapshot preset. And again, the links are below to both the free and the full version on Line 6 Marketplace. All right, so first things first, here we are over in HX Edit, and as you can see, I'm using my typical little template that I always use as a starting point. And again, it's very important to mention that that is just a starting point. You know, you should be able to take these and tweak them to your liking, your tastes, your guitar, your monitoring system, et cetera, et cetera. So we have the Divided Duo amp. We have that going into the cab of choice for me with this was the 112 US Deluxe. I really liked the way this worked with this and gave it the right characteristics I was looking for. But let's go right to the end here and start at the end. I have my LA Studio Comp with very typical settings for me. Again, just working a little bit, maybe a couple dB of gain reduction just to add a little squish to the sound and glue all the elements together, especially in the Line 6 Marketplace preset when I have other effects before. I like this little compressor right at the end in a very non-overt fashion. So I have the peak reduction at 6, gain at 5, mix at 100%. EQ here, parametric EQ, for once I'm actually using it very gently other than just for the low and high cut. I have the low cut at 100 hertz, high cut at 10 kilohertz. That's fine. But you'll notice here in the lower mids at 435 hertz with a Q of 1.4, I've pulled that back by minus 2 dB. That's a nice frequency to target if you find things are maybe not quite as clear as you want them to be, maybe lacking some clarity because there's a little bit of low mid mud, and that can help to clean that up. And I think you'll hear that work nicely when we do kind of the before and after comparison. For this, I used the Legacy plate with decay at 4.5, pre-delayed 15 milliseconds, mix of 28%. Was really liking what that was doing to this sound. And then my typical low and high shelf, again set at the center point that I really like. Low frequency at 650 hertz, high frequency at 650 hertz. All the frequencies below 650 minus 2 dB. So cutting those by 2 dB helps to clean up that bottom end a bit and control it. Going to help it to just sit sit in the mix a little nicer, and a slight boost of all the frequencies above 650 by plus 1 dB. So very subtle, but very nice. On the cab, like I mentioned, I have the 112 US Deluxe, 160 ribbon, one of my favorite mics. On the cap edge at a distance of 1 inch, so right up against it, but I angled it 45 degrees, which was giving me what I wanted from this. And on the amp, as I was mentioning, these two drives or volume controls are driving two different tubes in the front end of this amp, and they're both voiced a little bit different. So we can use these two drive controls to get very different tones going. We have a tone control, as I mentioned, which is going to be that 6-way selector on the amp. I'm going to control just how bright that tone is. And then we have a cut control also, which is going to affect the high end of the amp, and we can really brighten it up or dull it up. So the settings on those: drive 1, 3.0, drive 2, 4.7, tone at 4.4, cut at 5.9, presence at 0.6. Channel volume at 8.6. So there is actually no presence control on the actual amp, but as default, this comes up at this setting, and I just left it alone. There's also no master, but at default, it comes up at 8, so I just left that alone. And I didn't touch the sag, hum, ripple, bias, and bias X. So that's the settings I had on the amp. Now I have two snapshots here. I have amp cab, which is basically just going to get rid of all the sweeteners I put in and just go with the amp and the cab that I chose with the settings I have, so that we can quickly A/B between the full-blown preset and all the sweeteners that I put in, even though they're very subtle. The thing to keep in mind is I'm not doing a lot here. Very subtle compression, very subtle EQ moves, and a subtle reverb, which is just going to, I think when you hear the A/B comparison, you're going to realize that taking just the amp and the cab and adding these, it really makes it more mix ready, both for live and studio. I think it's going to be something that's going to be quite clear to hear when we can just switch all of them on and off, so you can hear a real A/B comparison between the two different situations. So before that though, let's just turn everything off here on the push, and we're going to take a listen to just the amp and the cab, and then we'll bring the sweetener elements in one at a time after that. Okay, so here I am playing my Sir Classic T guitar, and basically the amp and the cab sounds like this. I'll let you hear this through humbucker pickups after as well. So this is on the bridge pickup. Some really nice characteristics of what's going on here, and what this amp is capable of. Beautiful, nice edge of breakup, but it is kind of tubby and muddy. Could have a lot to do with where I have the mic position too. If I pulled this back more. You can really shape the sound, but in this case, I was really hearing something I liked about this. That kind of low-end beef that I was going to control with my EQ rather than using the distance. The distance control here on the mic can be very, very powerful, but sometimes I like to set it in a place where it's giving me a little too much of something and then control that with EQ, because I have more maybe fine-tuning abilities with the EQ, and I can just tweak it even more precisely the way that I want. So that's that sound. Now, when we come over here, I'm going to bring in the plate reverb first and foremost. As it always does, it just kind of brings it to life because it's not so dry and in your face. Now let's bring that compressor in at the end. Very, very subtle as always. Like I said, people who claim that putting this compressor at the end destroys their tone are not using the compressor properly. They're probably putting it on in a way far too heavy-handed manner. So it's just going to be very subtle. I also realize it may not be for everybody, and it's as simple as doing that and turning it off. Okay, so now we have the EQ, our high and low cuts, and this little tiny shaping of the low mids. Hear how that just cleaned it up a bit? Little tubby and muddy. A little more clarity now. Let's bring in the final element, the low and high shelf EQ. Again, very subtle, but move to the neck pickup. So you can see it works on all pickup selectors. And that's what this kind of allows us to do, is shape that tone so it's going to be very versatile. So beautiful, beautiful tone. So let's hear this before and after now. Here is just the amp and the cab, and then I can foot switch over to all the sweetener blocks after. You can really hear the stark difference when we add them all in. It's subtle, but it makes a huge difference in the final product. Here is just the amp and the cab. Even if on just the amp and the cab, we keep the reverb on. Kind of hear the tubbiness when we don't have all those sweeteners in there. Now let's take a listen to that with some humbucker pickups. Here I'm playing my Gibson 335, and again, let's go before and after. So here's without any of the sweeteners, just the reverb. Bring the sweeteners in. Neck pickup. We were on that neck pickup without all the little sweeteners. Listen how it's kind of tubby and muddy and out of control. Is it? Not really usable in any mix, I would say. Nicely cleaned up now and going to be much more usable. Middle position. And bridge. All right, so there you have it. There is the sound of that single snapshot preset. Now, I'd like to play you the full demo video of my Divided Duo Ultimate preset that is available on the Line 6 Marketplace. Like I mentioned, this is a multi-snapshot preset, all the way from clean up to more overdriven tones with a full array of effects and dialed in just perfect. One of the snapshots in there is going to be similar to the one we did today, which is also available as a free preset below, but I'd like to let you hear what the full-blown preset sounds like when blended in together in a full production over a full rhythm section. All right, so there you have it. What do you guys think? So you can go to the link below, grab the free preset from my website. If you're so inclined, you'd like to grab the full-blown preset, that's available at the link below. It's a Line 6 marketplace as well. I hope you enjoyed that walkthrough. What can sometimes be an amp that a lot of folks maybe don't think of using, and I think that's a real shame. If you haven't tried this amp, do yourself a favor, go give it a whirl and maybe use my preset as a starting point. And I hope you get some enjoyment out of it. So please like the video, share it with anybody you think would get some use or enjoyment out of watching it. Also, please subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I will be back really soon with some more. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Ciao for now.